Hello, today I'm going to go into one of the reasons that could be causing your depersonalization, and the topic of today is PTSD. So when I first experienced depersonalization, for a long time I thought I had PTSD. I believe a lot of people think that way as well, because the chronic symptoms of PTSD is derealization, and while that may be true for a lot of people, I think that unless you've got some specific trauma that's happened in your life that triggers anxiety and derealization, depersonalization, don't just make the shoe fit, because, and this is just my advice, but for me, I forced myself to believe it was PTSD because I basically thought of situations that were buried in my deeply in my subconscious that didn't really have a traumatic effect on me, but I made them traumatic and I made it seem like those were the causes, because I was just so blind to see what was actually the problem and just made the shoe fit. So, but if you do have PTSD, these are the things that you need to bear in mind. So obviously PTSD needs to have a trigger, some traumatic event in your life that's happened that has sent you into a state of chronic anxiety and derealization. So, those could be things such as abuse, violence, medical problems, some sort of witnessing some sort of act or accident, a death of a loved one as well. So these are things that generally cause PTSD. It could be anything though. It's not really to be debated, because people experience life differently, and while one thing might trigger trauma for one person, another person might not believe it's actually a big issue. So symptoms of PTSD are reoccurring thoughts about the incident and dreams as well, having flashbacks of what happened. So if you witnessed a car accident, having flashbacks of that event in your mind. Avoidance is definitely one, so avoiding going into a car, like developing chronic phobias of things because of the trauma, and doing anything to avoid being exposed to that as well. And whether that be watching, say if it was a car accident, watching a program with cars in it, like anything that would trigger the anxiety as well. And with PTSD, it's quite distinguishable from just general anxiety sometimes, because what incident has caused it. If you have to sit and think of something that would cause PTSD, then it's probably likely not PTSD, because PTSD, actually, people do know exactly what has caused it, and they have flashbacks, dreams, they can't do certain things, they don't expose themselves, and they develop phobias as well. So the treatment for PTSD, it can be obviously therapy with someone who is a trained counsellor and a psychotherapist as well. They'll probably go through the incident, but not in a abrasive way. They may like to talk about the feelings surrounding the trauma. They might like to break it down into more manageable things and, I guess, rationalise what happened, or if it was a major incident and something that was very impactful, they will work with the trauma in a way that is metaphorical. So they're probably not likely to want you to go into what had actually happened, but you are free to do that. But more so, they want to work with the feelings surrounding that incident and trying to process it as well, because the problem with PTSD, and the reason why it comes with depersonalization and derealization, is because the brain's protecting the mind from processing what actually happened, and it's almost in a state of shock and denial from the incident. That's why people can get stuck in this phase, because the brain hasn't processed the incident. Another one is that you may find it beneficial to expose yourself gradually and do graded exposure to the phobia, whether the PTSD was, for example, say like a car accident. Someone may want to, gradually work the way up to getting back into a car, and being around, cars or watching cars, because even little things might trigger the PTSD as well, which might impair someone's life. And also EMDR is a good treatment for PTSD, which is eye movement desensitization reprogramming. So basically, a therapist would have you follow their finger back and forward and think of their trauma, and as you're following the finger, it's almost, I guess, hypnotising the brain into processing the trauma and breaking it down, because of this visual trigger. So EMDR is a good effective treatment for PTSD. What I would say was, if also, say you believed your depersonalization was from PTSD, but you don't really have a specific event that happened, maybe if you've had a traumatic childhood that has just been like an ongoing process of like minor incidents, or you've had a traumatic breakup or relationship or something like that. I feel like if the depersonalization has started years after that gradual incident, and you've been okay since like it happened until it begun, and also if you are not triggered by thinking about the incident, then maybe it's not PTSD and it could be something else, like I've mentioned in the other videos. But there is just a common stigma with depersonalization that people just automatically say it's PTSD, or anxiety or emotional issues, psychological problems. But like I've said, it's not always the case. So just be mindful of what you believe PTSD is, because a lot of the time it's not as common as you might think it is. And when it is, PTSD doesn't last forever. If you've had depersonalization for years and years, and you think it's PTSD, and the incident that happened, when you think about it, doesn't really bother you, you don't have like a lot of anxiety surrounding it, then perhaps you might want to think about what else it could be, which I'll go through in other videos. So this is just, I guess, a message to say that I've been there, and I think I spent about 4 months trying to heal PTSD, when yes, I had anxiety surrounding things that happened, like general anxiety, but it wasn't PTSD, and the depersonalization wasn't caused by what had happened. I just made the shoe fit because I had no other explanation. So maybe you're in the same situation, but hopefully this might, prompt you to think, well, yes, that did cause me anxiety, but did it really put me in this state of personal, like 24/7 depersonalization? Because I think PTSD as well, I'm not sure because I've never had it, but I would assume that the depersonalization varies on whether or not you're exposed to that trigger. If you haven't thought about it for a week, but you've still had chronic depersonalization, like, it makes me wonder, does that correlate with, the condition, or is that just because you've got depersonalization because of another root cause? So yeah, I hope this video helps. I hope it makes sense, and if you've got any questions, just leave them down below. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.